What if I told you that trying to be the ultimate early bird at a theme park, setting that brutal 6:00 a.m. alarm, rushing to the gates, fighting that huge morning tide of people is actually costing you money?
Oh, and draining your energy bandwidth entirely.
Exactly. It's potentially ruining your whole vacation.
Yeah.
Because, we've all been conditioned to believe that the only way to do a park is this 14-hour marathon endurance test.
Which is just, well, it's a completely flawed premise.
Right. But today, we're going to show you why deliberately showing up at like 8:00 p.m. is actually the ultimate insider flex.
It's a total paradigm shift. Most guests are just treating their park day like a physical boot camp instead of, a logistical puzzle.
Which honestly brings us perfectly into the core theme of our deep dive today. Because
Mhm.
think about when you unbox a brand new smartphone, right, Mon? There is this expectation of just total frictionless joy.
Yeah, everything's incredibly snappy.
Exactly. You open an app, it
Yeah.
instantly launches. You swipe the screen, the frame rate is perfectly smooth, zero lag. But then, a year goes by.
You've downloaded way too many large files.
Yep. You never close out your background apps. You have 150 tabs open in your browser. And suddenly that exact same piece of high-end hardware feels like you are dragging a boulder uphill.
Every single tap is just so sluggish.
The battery completely drains before lunchtime. It's awful.
It hits a state of total system overload.
Mm.
It desperately needs a hard reset or, a massive upgrade to its operating system.
And that bogged down, sluggish smartphone is the exact analogy I use to describe the way the vast majority of people navigate a theme park. So many guests walk through those turnstiles running on this incredibly outdated, highly inefficient operating system.
Right, they hold on to these legacy tactics that just create so much friction.
And they are making rookie mistakes that eat up their physical RAM. They collide with every single operational bottleneck, and they just burn through their stamina and their wallets without even realizing there is a better way to process the data of the day.
They're essentially just experiencing the spinning wheel of death.
Yeah.
But, in the physical form of endless crowds and heavy souvenir bags.
Which is precisely what we are here to debug. So hello everyone, and welcome to this deep dive for the Sunshine Detour channel. Our mission today is pretty straightforward, but it's vital.
We're here to upgrade your theme park operating system.
Yes, from that of a casual, totally overwhelmed tourist to a seasoned, highly efficient pro. We have been combing through a massive stack of sources for you, including the latest Sunshine Detour operational updates, internal cast member, engineering notes, all that good stuff.
The advanced guest flow data.
Yeah, all of it, just to bring you the absolute cutting edge of park strategy. We're going to unlock some highly guarded, secret logistics hacks regarding parking and shopping.
Oh, the shopping hack is a lifesaver.
It really is. Plus, we are doing a massive technical review of the brand new Tomorrowland Buzz Lightyear refresh. We'll analyze the optics of the incredibly fresh castle aesthetics, and we're even peeking behind the construction walls at the Frontierland ride testing.
And honestly, for you listening right now, taking the time to process this data, it could not happen at a better moment. The timing is incredibly strategic.
It really is. Because if you look at the macro-level attendance data, we are officially on the other side of the spring break crush.
Thank goodness. The great seasonal migration has finally concluded.
It really has. The massive waves of peak season crowds are visibly thinning out. If you look at the digital wait time boards across the property, those moving averages are taking a massive dip.
The pathways are finally unblocking.
Yeah, like if you picture standing right in the middle of a sunny Main Street, USA right now, the atmospheric density has entirely shifted. It is finally breathable again.
You can actually walk without bumping shoulders.
Exactly. It's the perfect moment to grab a cold pineapple Dole Whip, find a shaded spot on a bench somewhere, and systematically strategize your next move.
And that right there is the ultimate pro move. Because the difference between a pretty good park day and a truly flawless, optimized day, well, it rarely comes down to luck.
No, almost never.
It almost entirely comes down to logistics and resource management. And since those heavy spring break crowds have just packed up and headed to the airport, it gives us this beautifully clear runway to talk about how you can navigate the environment efficiently, like a true insider.
I love that.
So let's treat these next few logistical protocols like highly guarded secrets. This is the intel we would only share with our absolute best friends to save you significant cash and honestly, to preserve your mental bandwidth.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately. Because whenever you mention bypassing fees and saving cash, you instantly have my complete, undivided attention.
I figured you'd like that.
So let's talk about the very first friction point of any road trip to the property.
Right, we have to analyze the parking situation at the Magic Kingdom. For anyone who's driving a personal vehicle or a rental into the resort, the toll plaza is your initial entry point.
The dreaded toll plaza.
Exactly. And it's entirely designed to be a psychological commitment. You pull your car up to the booth, and before you have even seen a single monorail or smelled the popcorn, bam, you are hit with a significant parking fee.
It sets a financial baseline for your entire day right out of the gate.
It does.
It's like this necessary evil of the vacation ecosystem. It just feels unavoidable.
But that is exactly where the outdated operating system fails the user. It feels unavoidable, but it actually isn't.
Wait, really?
Yeah, here is the insider hack that most guests simply do not realize, largely because, well, it isn't loudly advertised on any billboard anywhere. After a certain hour in the evening, parking at the Magic Kingdom Toll Plaza transitions to being entirely free.
Okay, I need to pause you right there to emphasize this because it sounds almost counterintuitive for a massive entertainment property. The parking actually becomes completely free.
Completely free. I mean it. The cast members eventually finish their shifts at the booths, the gates are left open, and the transactional friction is entirely removed. The toll booths just become a drive-through lane. Now, to understand why this happens, you kind of have to look at the psychology of resort economics. By the late evening, the property has already captured the vast majority of its daily parking revenue from the morning and afternoon arrivals.
Right, the rope drop crowd already paid.
Exactly. If they keep the toll booth staffed and demand $30 at, say, 8 months 00 p.m., a local pass holder or a guest staying off property might just decide to stay at their hotel or go to a local movie theater instead.
Because $30 just to catch the fireworks is a tough sell.
Right. But by dropping the parking fee entirely, they remove that initial financial barrier. They sacrifice the $30 at the gate because they absolutely know that once you park, take the tram, and walk down Main Street, the environment is engineered to make you want to spend money.
Oh, for sure. You're going to drop $100 on a sit-down dinner.
Or a late-night snack, or a premium sweatshirt because the temperature suddenly dropped.
That is a brilliant psychological trick by the operators. They are trading a small upfront toll for a massive secondary point-of-sale conversion inside the gates.
Yep, it's totally calculated.
And as a guest, once you understand that algorithm, you can absolutely use it to your advantage. Think about the incredible flexibility that unlocks for your itinerary.
It changes everything.
You could spend the entire peak heat portion of the day relaxing by your hotel pool, taking a nap, grabbing a far less expensive dinner somewhere outside the resort bubble, and then you just roll right in as the sun goes down to catch the nighttime spectacular.
You bypass the worst of the crowds.
You bypass the brutal midday UV index, and you haven't paid a single dime to park your car.
Exactly. It fundamentally redefines the financial and physical math of the evening run.
Right.
You are basically operating on the park's downtime. But of course, optimizing your entry is only step one.
Right.
Once you are actually inside the park footprint, whether you utilize the late-night arrival strategy or you decided to brave the morning rush, there's another major logistical trap that I see guests fall into constantly.
Oh, no.
And honestly, it hurts my pro-traveler heart every single time I witness it.
I have a feeling I know exactly the system error you were about to bring up. I see this specific rookie mistake everywhere, and it is a genuinely painful visual to process.
It really is.
Let me paint the picture for you out there listening, because we have all seen this. You are navigating the winding, incredibly narrow switchbacks of a highly themed ride queue. The line is moving slowly. It is 85 degrees out with 90% humidity.
Sounds miserable already.
Right. And right in front of you is a poor, exhausted soul trying to wrangle a giant 4-foot-tall plush alien under one arm.
Oh, yes. The giant plushies.
While simultaneously wielding two rigid, incredibly awkward plastic lightsabers in the other hand.
It is a complete logistical nightmare. It is literally the physical manifestation of keeping 100 background apps open on your phone.
That is the perfect way to put it. It is eating up their physical RAM. They are bumping into the stanchions. The plush toy is dragging on the sticky ground.
And they are accidentally whacking other guests in the shins with the plastic hilts of the lightsabers.
Yes. They are sweating profusely, and they look absolutely miserable. They've made the catastrophic decision to buy the biggest, bulkiest items at like 10 in the morning, and now they are held hostage by their own souvenirs for the next 10 hours.
They've completely bricked their own operating
It
system.
was so tragic.
It really is undeniably the fastest way to drain your stamina.
Yeah.
Every single step requires extra processing power just to manage your inventory. Which brings us to the insider solution.
Laid on us.
If you want to maintain peak efficiency, you absolutely must save your shopping for the absolute end of the night at the Emporium. Or, and this is even better, utilize the deeply underappreciated package hold service.
Let's do a deep dive into the package hold system, because to the uninitiated, it honestly operates like magic. But there is some serious logistics happening behind the scenes to make it work.
It is pure, concentrated operational efficiency. The protocol is simple, but incredibly effective. When you are at a merchandise location, say deep in Tomorrowland or Frontierland, and you purchase something, especially a bulky or fragile item, you do not carry it with you out the door.
Never.
You inform the cast member at the register that you want to utilize the package hold. You fill out a quick little slip, and then you just walk away empty-handed.
It feels so wrong, but it's so right.
Behind the scenes, that item is bagged, tagged, and routed down into the utilidors, which is the massive underground tunnel network that runs beneath the park. It's placed on an electric cart and transported completely out of sight to the package pickup counter near the exit at the front of the park.
It is essentially a subterranean logistics network designed exclusively to keep your hands free.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the impact on your day is immeasurable. You give your arms a much-needed break. You free up your hands to actually hold a beverage or, operate your phone to capture media.
Yeah, you can actually take photos.
Right. And you can navigate through dense crowds infinitely faster because your physical footprint is significantly smaller. You just retrieve your items on the way to your car.
Okay, the logistics are undeniably sound, but let me push back on this just a little bit because we need to examine the emotional variables here.
Okay, let's hear it.
I completely understand the efficiency angle, and as an adult, I love the idea of an underground tunnel network moving my heavy stuff. That sounds great. But what if you are navigating this environment with a family?
Right.
Your 6-year-old child sees that specific, highly detailed action figure or that glowing toy, and they want it right now. There is a very real, deeply ingrained emotional component to wanting to hold your souvenir.
Oh, absolutely.
Half the fun for a kid is battling an imaginary Darth Vader by the churro cart, or flying their new spaceship while waiting in line for a pretzel. If we strictly mandate the package hold to maximize our physical RAM, aren't we kind of optimizing the actual fun out of the day?
That's fair.
How do you balance that immediate, visceral desire for playtime with the cold, hard practicality of the logistics network?
That is a phenomenal point, and it forces us to look at the nuance of the strategy rather than just rigid rules. You are absolutely right. A theme park is an emotional landscape, not just a physical grid.
Exactly.
You cannot completely engineer the joy out of the experience in the name of efficiency. So the solution is strategic compromise. You have to weigh a few minutes of immediate gratification against hours of compounding physical fatigue for the parents who, let's be honest, will inevitably end up carrying that toy by 2:00 p.m.
Oh, the dreaded, here, hold this for a second, hand on.
Exactly. The moment the kid gets tired of carrying it, the burden transfers to the parent and the parental operating system begins to crash.
It's game over.
So the pro strategy is tier-based souvenir management.
I like the sound of that.
If a child really wants to hold something right away, you steer them toward a smaller, pocket-sized item, a pin, a small keychain, or something highly interactive but lightweight for the daytime hours. That satisfies the immediate emotional need for a tangible connection to the park.
It makes total sense.
Meanwhile, you utilize the package hold for the massive playsets, the fragile snow globes, the heavy apparel. You promise the larger items for the grand finale retrieval at the end of the night. Because ultimately, preserving the parent's physical stamina equals a much better, significantly happier day for the entire family unit.
Oh, 100%.
When parents aren't exhausted and physically aching from lugging heavy bags, their emotional patience is much higher. When you aren't awkwardly trying to fold a giant lightsaber into the tiny storage pouch of a ride vehicle, you're actually present and enjoying the attraction.
That is a fantastic way to frame it. You are essentially managing the emotional endurance of the entire group by compartmentalizing the physical burdens. You give them the lightweight cache memory for immediate access, and you store the heavy files on the hard drive for later.
That is exactly the right analogy. Now, speaking of optimizing your long-term planning, we noted earlier that wait times are dipping right now because the spring break crowd volume has receded.
Right.
But if we connect this to the macro level picture, a truly savvy planner is always looking ahead to future data sets. You have to future-proof your strategy against known anomalies in the operational calendar.
The ultimate system upgrade is predictive analysis. So, what massive data spike is looming on the horizon that we need to prepare for?
Well, if you are looking at planning a trip, you need to keep a very, very close eye on the Run Disney event calendar for 2026.
Ah, yes. The marathon weekends. That is a completely different operational beast.
It fundamentally alters the physics of the entire resort property. When those race weekends hit, the entire dynamic shifts. Park attendance peaks dramatically, but more importantly, the logistics of the surrounding infrastructure are heavily impacted.
Right, because it's not just regular guests.
Tens of thousands of runners descend on the property. The resort hotels hit maximum capacity incredibly fast. But the real friction comes from the physical changes to the environment. You will see pathways packed with runners wearing their medals, which is, a fantastic, highly positive energy to be around.
It's super fun, but
Logistically, it creates massive choke points.
let's break down exactly why that is, because it isn't just about the number of people inside the park gates. The actual transportation grid is temporarily reconfigured.
That is the critical factor. To accommodate a half marathon or a full marathon safely, they have to physically close down major arterial roads across the property during the early morning hours.
Which messes up everything else.
Exactly. This means the standard bus loops from the hotels are rerouted or delayed. The traffic patterns around the main toll plazas become highly congested, and because these runners are generally up at 3:00 a.m. for their races, by the time the parks officially open at 8:00 or 9:00 a.m., the front gates are absolutely flooded with participants eager to celebrate.
It creates this artificial super spike in early morning attendance. So, what does this data mean for someone who is planning their trip and accidentally books during a 2026 race weekend? How do they patch their operating system to handle that?
It means you have to actively deploy a counter-programming strategy. If you try to execute a standard early morning rope drop strategy on a marathon weekend, you are walking directly into the highest concentration of operational friction possible.
You're just asking for a headache.
You'll be fighting delayed buses, rerouted traffic, and massive crowds at the security checkpoints. Instead, you pivot. This is the exact scenario where you deploy the late arrival hack we discussed earlier.
Bringing it all together.
You let the massive wave of runners hit the parks in the morning. By 3:00 or 4:00 p.m., many of those runners who woke up at 3:00 p.m. and have just run 13 or 26 miles, they hit a massive physical wall.
Understandably.
They head back to their resorts to sleep. That is when the park begins to empty out. You arrive in the late afternoon, enjoy lower wait times, bypass the morning traffic chaos, and utilize the free evening parking.
That is spectacular advice. You are literally tracking the physical exhaustion levels of the crowd flow and stepping in exactly when their energy depletes. You dodge the operational bottlenecks by simply shifting your timeline on the x-axis.
Yes.
It is the purest definition of working smarter, not harder.
You have to flow like water around the obstacles
Okay.
rather than trying to punch through them.
Okay, so we have optimized our physical logistics. We have saved our arms from carrying heavy bags by utilizing the utilidors. We have preserved our wallets at the toll plaza, and we have navigated the future predictive models of the crowd calendars.
A very successful first segment.
Seriously. Now, I want to transition our focus. Let's move from the physical logistics of the ground to the actual optical processing of the park. Because if you are walking down Main Street right now without those heavy bags pulling your eyes down to the pavement, you are treated to some seriously impressive visual upgrades.
The visual landscape of the Magic Kingdom right now is in a highly pristine state. The maintenance division has been incredibly active.
They really have. And we have to start by analyzing the central icon of the property. Cinderella Castle just received a massive, comprehensive, fresh coat of paint, and the aesthetic impact is staggering. It looks incredibly regal.
It does. They've made a very deliberate artistic choice to bring back those classic crisp tones. For a while, they were experimenting with different hues, but this return to the foundational color palette feels very timeless.
It does, and what really strikes me from an optical perspective is the highly specific color value they chose for the blue turrets. They have engineered this incredible deep vibrancy into the paint.
It really pops.
Yes, when you stand in the hub, the way those rich blue turrets perfectly pop against the natural atmospheric scattering of the Florida sky, It creates the absolute ideal high-contrast backdrop for family photos. It fundamentally changes the forced perspective of the architecture.
How so?
By highly saturating those turrets, it actually tricks the human eye into perceiving the castle as being significantly taller and more majestic against the horizon. But here is where it gets really interesting, and I need everyone listening to process this carefully. Modern digital cameras absolutely do not do it justice.
They really don't. It is almost a frustrating phenomenon to witness.
It is incredibly frustrating. You take out a $1,000 smartphone, you snap a picture of the castle, and sure, the resulting image looks nice, but something gets lost in the digital translation.
The vibrancy is just gone.
Exactly. Something in the way the lenses capture the light, and more specifically, the way the onboard image processing algorithms automatically attempt to balance the exposure, it flattens the color. The high dynamic range, or HDR software in your phone, tries to expose for the bright sky and the darker stonework simultaneously.
Right, it's overcompensating.
And in doing so, it aggressively compresses the vibrancy of that blue paint. When you are actually standing there in person, your own retinas are processing the stonework details, the crispness of the gold leaf trim, and the way the raw sunlight interacts with the pigment on those turrets.
It possesses a profound depth.
Yes, a depth and saturation that a heavily compressed digital photo completely fails to replicate. You absolutely have to see these vibrant colors with your own organic optics.
What's fascinating here, if we look at the engineering of the park's aesthetics, is how that exact principle, that digital reproduction, simply cannot match the biological reality of being there. It extends far beyond just the daytime architecture.
Oh, for sure.
It perfectly transitions into the technology driving the evening entertainment.
Oh, absolutely. The nighttime shift is where the optical limitations of our devices really become apparent.
Because as the sun goes down and the ambient light drops, the park transforms to host the Disney Starlight Parade. And if we are having a conversation about visual environments that camera sensors completely fail to comprehend, this is the ultimate textbook example.
Yes. The Starlight Parade is a masterclass in the intersection of traditional artistic design and incredibly advanced photonic technology.
It's next level.
The sheer volume and density of the LED technology they are utilizing within the infrastructure of these floats is genuinely mind-blowing. We are talking about millions of individual diodes mapped perfectly to complex three-dimensional sculptures.
And once again, this is where the digital barrier becomes a massive liability. I watched the YouTube live streams and the social media clips of this parade, and they completely failed to capture the true immersive vibrancy of the event.
They look so washed out online.
They really do. I stand on the parade route and see people experiencing the entire massive procession through the tiny 6-inch screen of their phone as they try to film it. And I just want to tap them on the shoulder and tell them to put the hardware down and look with their actual eyes.
I could not agree more. And there is actual physics behind why those videos look so terrible compared to reality. It comes down to how LEDs operate. Most advanced LED systems use pulse width modulation, or PWM, to control brightness.
Right, they flicker.
Exactly. They're essentially flickering on and off thousands of times a second. Your organic eye naturally smooths this out into a continuous, beautiful stream of light, but your smartphone camera has a rolling electronic shutter. When the shutter speed of the camera clashes with the refresh rate of the LEDs, you get this terrible banding, flickering, and color distortion in the video.
The camera sensor literally cannot process the data fast enough to represent reality.
Exactly. The LEDs aren't just bright. They possess a deeply rich, highly saturated quality that pushes the absolute boundaries of the visible color gamut. They pulse and dynamically shift in a way that blows out the image sensor on a phone, turning a beautifully textured glowing flower into a harsh white blur on screen. But to the naked eye, the color separation is perfectly crisp.
The micro-level detail they achieve with this lighting is astonishing. It isn't just a bulb wrapped in plastic. The light is seemingly woven into the fabric of the characters themselves.
Let's focus on one specific highlight to illustrate this, because I am completely obsessed with the engineering of the Cocoa Float.
Oh, the Cocoa Float is arguably the crown jewel of the entire procession. It is breathtaking.
It really is a marvel. The way the Imagineers have constructed the glowing marigold bridge, it isn't just a solid block of orange light, it is textured. It literally looks like thousands of individual luminous flowers floating in the air.
The dimension is incredible.
And the light it emits isn't harsh. It radiates this incredibly warm, golden, almost ethereal glow. And then towering massively above that bridge, you have the animatronic figure of Pepita.
The Elabri spirit guide. The
Yes.
scale of it is imposing.
Yes. She is massive, she has fully articulated movement, and her entire exterior is glowing. The highly saturated neon greens, the deep purples, and the vibrant pinks of her complex design are illuminated internally using this advanced LED tech.
It's so fluid.
She doesn't look like a machine covered in lights. She looks like a massive, moving, biologically glowing piece of art. And here's the most crucial part of the experience. Watching how the ambient light projected from that specific float washes over the spectator standing on the sidewalk.
Yes.
It fundamentally changes the entire atmospheric density of the street.
That is the psychological shift I find most compelling. It creates what I call a shared visual environment. In older parades, the float was a brightly lit object in a dark space, and you passively watched it go by.
You were just an observer.
With the Starlight Parade, the light output is so substantial and so carefully color-timed that it bleeds out into the audience. You aren't just observing a float, you are physically bathed in the warm golden light of the marigolds as it passes. Your own face and the architecture of Main Street around you changes color to match the narrative of the float.
It's beautiful.
It is a highly immersive, almost tactile visual experience that simply cannot be contained inside a video file.
It really is external LED technology deployed at its absolute finest. But speaking of removing the friction from our hardware and experiencing incredible technological upgrades, let's take a slight detour from the external light projection of the parade route and head inside a show building.
Okay, where are we going?
Because over in Tomorrowland, we have some serious, heavily anticipated, hands-on, interactive tech upgrades to break down.
This is the operational data I know you've been eagerly waiting to process.
I cannot even begin to contain my excitement for this system update. The Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin has officially completed its downtime and has reopened to guests.
Yes, the refurbishment cycle is complete. Now, to manage expectations, we need to clarify for everyone listening, this is not a total ground-up overhaul of the attraction's infrastructure.
Right, it's not a new ride.
The physical track layout remains exactly the same. The show scenes are in the same order. In fact, if you look at the merchandise footprint, the gift shop at the exit of the ride remains completely identical to its previous iteration.
Which is perfectly fine. It is a highly efficient retail space.
It is a classic egress point. But the actual dark ride itself, while beautifully maintaining its original classic soul and charm, is now a highly polished, mechanically perfected version of itself. It is massive, highly noticeable upgrade in terms of the actual tactile mechanics of the interactive elements.
Okay, let's quickly analyze the aesthetic refresh before we dive into the heavy tech telemetry. As your OmniMover ride vehicle deploys into the initial show scenes, your eyes instantly register that the physical props are vibrant again. The UV reactive neon colors under the black lights have been heavily saturated. It looks incredibly crisp. And the classic alien animatronics have received a serious mechanical tune-up. The pneumatics and motors have been serviced. They are spinning much smoother, their movements are highly fluid, and they no longer suffer from that rigid mechanical stutter that used to plague the older figures.
They look fresh, and the maintenance is obvious. But the real game changer here, the engineering element that fundamentally alters and drastically improves the guest experience, is the radically improved technology driving the laser blasters.
Yes, the laser blasters. Okay, if you have interacted with this specific ride system at any point in the past decade, you are painfully aware of the operational struggle. The legacy hardware was a massive source of friction.
It was exhausting.
You are holding this heavy, clunky, physically tethered plastic gun. You are mashing the mechanical trigger repeatedly. Your thumb is cramping from the rigid spring tension. And you are essentially just blindly firing a red dot into the darkness, completely hoping you manage to cross paths with a Z target.
Right. It wasn't a game of skill. It was largely a statistical guessing game. You would see a target flash somewhere in the distance and just assume, oh, I guess my laser triggered that. Or maybe it was the person in the vehicle next to me.
Exactly. It was incredibly imprecise. The latency between the physical action and the digital response was terrible. It caused a massive amount of unnecessary psychological friction for guests who actually wanted to compete.
But not anymore. The newly installed blasters are an absolute revelation in dark ride engineering. First of all, the physical mechanics of the trigger assemblies themselves are finally highly responsive. They have replaced the heavy springs. There is a deeply satisfying, instantaneous tactile click when you pull the trigger.
Oh, it feels so good.
The ergonomic thumb fatigue has been entirely eliminated. But far more importantly, the underlying telemetry has been overhauled. The Z targets scattered throughout the physical sets feature brand new, highly sensitive infrared receivers.
The optical accuracy is undeniable now. The margin of error has been reduced to nearly zero.
It really has. When your specific laser emitter crosses paths with a Z target, there is an immediate, mathematically precise registration of the hit. The hardware latency is gone.
It's instant.
There is no more ambiguous guessing about who triggered the score. It is a true one-to-one feedback loop. And the way your vehicle processes and displays that feedback is a complete structural redesign. We have to talk about the new dashboard UI inside the ships.
The implementation of the new digital screens is a massive leap forward.
The sleek, brand new LCD digital score screens. For years, we dealt with those old physical rolling number dials that looked like an analog odometer ripped out of a 1985 sedan.
And they would always get stuck halfway between numbers.
Always. Now that entire analog mechanism has been ripped out and replaced with a beautiful, brightly backlit LCD display mounted perfectly in your line of sight. And the software driving it does something truly brilliant for the user experience. It doesn't just show your individual score.
No, it does so much more.
It clearly displays your individual tally. It shows your vehicle partner's individual score cleanly right next to it. And dynamically calculates and displays a combined team total in real time.
Which is such a brilliant, highly effective psychological addition to the ride's game theory.
It perfectly, undeniably settles all those intense family debates that happen at the unload platform. There is no more claiming the analog dial got stuck. You can definitively point to the high-resolution screen and state, "Look, I am the ultimate space hero." The raw data proves it beyond a shadow of a doubt.
If we look at this upgrade from a broader, macro-level perspective, these technological improvements drastically improve the overall guest experience by entirely removing the frustration of faulty mechanics.
Exactly.
When the old blasters didn't register properly or the analog scoring was ambiguous, it shattered the immersion. It took you completely out of the narrative moment and reminded you that you were fighting against aging hardware. By implementing these highly responsive infrared sensors and the crystal clear LCD data displays, they have made the competitive gamification aspect undeniably clean.
It removes the processing lag.
It allows the guest to completely let go and simply focus on the pure fun of the environment rather than constantly troubleshooting the interface.
Absolutely. The system is finally frictionless, the hardware disappears, and only the experience remains. And all of this highly responsive gameplay builds up to a brand new narrative finale.
The transition into the ending tunnel.
Yes. As your vehicle exits the primary physical battle rooms, you enter the final tunnel sequence. Previously, this was a rather underwhelming corridor with static painted walls.
It was a little anticlimactic.
Now it features a completely rebuilt scene that is infinitely more immersive. It utilizes massive digital projection screens, the lighting dynamically reacts to your final blaster shots, and most importantly, they have seamlessly introduced a brand new character to the lore.
The introduction of Buddy.
Yes, Buddy. He is this fantastically designed, highly expressive, new, futuristic support robot character. And he is right there integrated into the finale screens, actively communicating with the riders and helping to coordinate the final massive volley of fire against Emperor Zurg's ship.
I love Buddy.
It adds this incredibly cohesive narrative capstone to the whole experience. Instead of just rolling past a final target, you really feel like you collaborated with an ally and successfully accomplished a high-stakes mission.
It provides a very satisfying closed-loop resolution to the interactive story. The game design theory here is incredibly solid.
It really is. It's the perfect system update.
So Tomorrowland is currently operating at peak efficiency. Everything is mechanically tuned up, the telemetry is highly responsive, and the visual polish is absolute. But if we pull our focus back, traverse the central hub, and make our way all the way across the park infrastructure to Frontierland, we are looking at a very different operational scenario.
Oh, definitely.
We are moving from the freshly compiled, smoothly running code of Tomorrowland straight into the active, ongoing beta testing and heavy mechanical tinkering happening over at Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Big Thunder is currently categorized under extensive operational testing. The ride is down, the construction walls are up, and there is a massive amount of anticipation within the community regarding what exactly is being re-engineered behind those barricades.
There is a staggering amount of data to process here. Visually, the iconic mountain structure is looking fantastic from the exterior pathways, but if you watch closely, you can see the locomotive trains physically cycling on the roller coaster tracks entirely empty.
They are running stress tests.
Let's dig into the credible rumors and the confirmed updates, because the scope of this project is generating intense buzz.
The most significant piece of intel, and this is a mechanical change that would fundamentally alter the physical dynamics of the attraction, involves the extensive installation of a brand new track system.
Which is an incredibly massive logistical undertaking.
It is the equivalent of replacing the entire motherboard of the ride.
Yeah.
The primary engineering goal here is to deliver a significantly smoother kinetic experience. Big Thunder has historically marketed itself as the wildest ride in the wilderness. But from a strictly physical standpoint, over the decades, as the steel aged and the chassis wore down, that wildness increasingly translated into a rather rattling, jarring, highly lateral physical experience for many guests.
The forces weren't just pushing you down, they were aggressively throwing you side to side.
Definitely. You would hit those tight helices and physically get thrown off balance into the person sitting next to you. The friction was very real.
Exactly. But by utilizing modern computer-aided design, or CAD, they can reprofile the geometry of the ride path. Think of the old track profile, like driving a high-speed sports car down a heavily rutted gravel road. All that kinetic energy vibrates violently right up through the suspension and into your spine.
That's a great analogy.
The new, mathematically perfected track is the equivalent of laying down fresh, completely seamless asphalt. You aren't sacrificing any of the actual velocity. They preserve the tight, thrilling turns, the sudden drops, and the illusion of out-of-control speed. But they engineer the banking with modern physics so that the train glides fluidly.
Right, the energy is directed forward, seamlessly carrying momentum, rather than violently shifting laterally.
It fundamentally makes the attraction physically accessible and comfortable for a much wider demographic, while retaining the exact same thrill profile.
I love that deep dive into the coaster physics. It is upgrading the hardware to handle the software of the ride much more efficiently. And the incredible thing is, it isn't just the raw track mechanics receiving this level of attention. The immersive show scenes enclosed within the mountain are getting significant aesthetic upgrades as well.
Ooh, tell me more.
Specifically, we need to look at the meticulous updates occurring within the Rainbow Caverns segment of the ride.
This is an incredibly beautiful, highly nostalgic detail that connects deeply to the historical DNA of the park.
It is a massive nod to the classic mine train through nature's wonderland that used to occupy that exact footprint. As your train travels down into the dark, enclosed cave sections of the coaster, the Imagineers are currently installing these deeply glowing, highly saturated phosphorescent pools of water nestled heavily among the rockwork.
Wow.
So instead of just rushing through a dark void, you get this eerie, beautifully natural chemical luminescence. The glowing liquid reflects deeply off the stalactites and the cave walls as the train rushes by, illuminating the cavern in these rich, unnatural tones.
It adds a profound layer of visual depth to what is otherwise a very fast-moving kinetic environment. It forces your eye to process beauty in the middle of chaos.
It really does. I mean, when you look at the sheer scale of the project with all the heavy track replacement, the complex physics modeling, and the installation of the new glowing chemical pools, they are clearly mining for perfection before they open the gates to the public.
Wait, did you really just deploy that phrase?
I absolutely did. I went right for the pun. I saw the opening and the conversational logic, and I took the shot.
That was terrible. That was a truly structurally terrible pun. It completely derailed the serious engineering analysis we were just conducting.
I completely stand by it. Mining for perfection. It practically writes itself when you are discussing a heavily themed mine train. My operating system demands occasional humor protocols.
I suppose I have to let you have that one. It's only to keep the show moving forward. But terrible, deeply painful jokes aside, the current operational status of the project is extremely promising. As you mentioned, the wide architectural shots of the mountain's exterior look fantastic. The heavy construction scaffolding is rapidly coming down, and based on the testing cycles we are seeing, we fully expect the attraction to be operating in absolute top-tier, frictionless shape very soon.
It is going to be a highly spectacular, heavily optimized return for a true foundational classic.
It is going to be genuinely amazing. So, let's review the data we have processed today. We have successfully optimized our physical logistics by hacking the parking fees and utilizing the utilidors for package routing. We have optimized our optical processing by understanding why the castle and the Starlight Parade must be viewed with organic eyes rather than digital sensors.
Check.
We have completely eliminated hardware latency by blasting Zurg with the highly responsive new IR tech in Tomorrowland. And we are eagerly anticipating the mathematically perfected coaster physics of the smoothest ride in the wilderness. Which brings our theoretical park day to its inevitable conclusion.
The absolute most critical part of the day,
Yeah.
strategically speaking. This is where the long-term emotional retention of the trip is solidified.
Exactly, because the absolute final, non-negotiable piece of advice we have to inject into your operating system today is a hard and fast rule. Unless there is a massive logistical emergency, you must never, ever leave the park before the nighttime fireworks spectacular.
It is the ultimate grand-scale finale. And honestly, the current iteration of the spectacular firing over the castle is easily one of the most technologically complex and emotionally resonant shows the entertainment division has ever produced.
It's stunning.
It utilizes massive, high-definition digital projection mapping that seamlessly wraps the three-dimensional stonework of the architecture, paired with perfectly timed pyrotechnics orchestrated down to the millisecond.
It is completely awe-inspiring. And amidst all that massive explosive scale, there's one highly specific, deeply intimate moment you absolutely cannot look away from.
The iconic Tinkerbell flight sequence.
Yes. When the park goes momentarily dark and she suddenly takes flight from the highest turret of the castle, physically soaring all the way across the vast, dark expanse of the sky in a massive trail of sparkling, illuminated pixie dust, it triggers a visceral, emotional response. It gives me absolute chills every single time I witness it.
Within the industry, it is affectionately referred to as the Kiss Goodnight. It is the perfect, highly emotional capstone to a massive, logistically demanding day in Florida. It provides a profound sense of narrative closure.
It really does.
It is a psychological reward that you simply do not receive if you choose to beat the traffic and leave at 3 in the afternoon.
It neatly wraps the entire chaotic, massive experience up with a perfect bow and gracefully powers down your physical operating system for the night.
You know, as we begin to wrap up this deep dive and review the data points we've covered, there is a massive overarching theme here that I think is highly worth mulling over.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think critically about the specific updates we have analyzed today. We are seeing classic legacy rides in Tomorrowland getting outfitted with hyper-accurate infrared telemetry and instant LCD data feedback. We are seeing evening parades abandoning traditional incandescent bulbs to utilize intensely advanced, deeply saturated, software-controlled LED technology that dynamically alters the color of the physical street.
Right.
The modern theme park experience is fundamentally irreversibly shifting. It is actively moving away from the old model of passive observation, where you simply sit back in a fiberglass vehicle and watch rigid animatronics perform a loop, and it is rapidly evolving toward high-tech, highly interactive, total immersion.
That is so true.
The physical environment now actively reacts to your presence. Your laser hits are mathematically tracked. The parade light physically bathes over you. You are no longer just a spectator. You are an active variable in the environment's code.
That is an incredibly profound, high-level point. The line between the digital world and the physical theme park is completely dissolving.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it raises a massively important question for all of us who dedicate our time to studying and navigating this environment. With the underlying technology evolving this rapidly, how will this definitive shift toward total interactivity fundamentally change the way we plan our physical park days 5 years from now?
Wow, yeah.
Will our future itineraries still be driven by queuing up for traditional physical roller coasters? Or will our days be entirely dictated by massive interactive digital quests that seamlessly span across multiple themed lands and require us to physically hack the environment with our smartphones? It is a deeply fascinating trajectory to consider as we look toward the future of themed entertainment.
That is an absolutely incredible thought to leave everyone with, because the core operating system of the park infrastructure is constantly upgrading, which means our own internal operating systems as guests have to constantly adapt and upgrade right alongside it, or we risk getting left behind in the lag.
Precisely. You either optimize your strategy or you suffer the friction.
Well, that is officially it for our massive data update today from the Sunshine Detour. If you found value in this deep dive into the underlying logistics, the advanced tech telemetry, and the optical magic of the parks, please do us a massive favor and physically hit that like button on your screen.
And make absolutely sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so your own feed is constantly updated with our latest Disney, EV, and Florida lifestyle content.
We truly deeply appreciate you taking the time to process this information and joining us on this strategic journey today. Until next week, keep dreaming, keep optimizing, and keep planning.
Thanks for watching the Sunshine Detour channel. We will see you in the parks.
Don't forget to embrace the detour.